I was lucky to be born in Russia and to be raised in America because I appreciated this country so much more. When you come from poor, corrupt country to United States, I appreciate this country so much more because I saw the contrast. I saw the opportunity I could have here, which I didn't have in Russia. So I knew that if I work harder, and I had to work harder than everybody else because I didn't understand the culture, I didn't understand the language. But once I kind of acclimated, I would argue that it became my competitive advantage. How about freedom of speech? Everything in newspapers was censored. You did not hear about any crime because it was not reported. There was not a in-your-face discrimination, but there was plenty of kind of institutionalized discrimination. So if you were Jewish, Georgian, or Armenian, or Tajik, you were everybody looked at you as a second-class citizen. So there was almost like a caste system. It was not an official caste system, but it was almost like a caste system. There were very few choices. I grew up in this town, Murmansk, and it only had 3 universities, and these universities had a very narrow range of professions. Like you could become a teacher, you become a seaman, or forget something else. But it was very, very narrow, so very few opportunities. There was an enormous amount of corruption. People became successful a lot of times not because of the merit, but because how well they navigated in this whole system of bribery and in the system of corruption. So it was a meritocracy, but merit was based on your skills in bribery and this kind of stuff. So those are the things that come to mind. I mean, aside from the fact that my mom spent half of her day hunting for food in a grocery store because there was always a shortage of food. But that's that's kind of I remember, about growing up in Soviet Russia.
What was it like coming to the United States and seeing supersizing a Coke?
So it's kind of interesting. It's a huge contrast, right? You come from Russia to the United States, you go to the grocery store and you realize some people drink Coke as it was water. That's what I did the first 3 years I came to the United States. I consumed more Coke in the first 3 years in the United States than in the previous 19 years of my life in Russia. I mean, literally, because until I came to the United States, I only tried Coke once. So I usually talk about positive aspects of this, but let me actually flip this a little bit. So United States has a lot of abundance, which is good, but not always, because this abundance I found could also be dangerous, because just like I consumed a gallon of Coke every day. That's not good. And so what happened was actually, let's talk about Coke for a second. I remember this day vividly. I was at a restaurant, Village Inn, and I ordered a 3rd Coke. And I was drinking it and I realized I can't taste the sweetness of it anymore. Because I've been drinking so much of it, my taste buds completely got obliterated. And it just tasted like water, except it had a huge amount of sugar. And this is when I decided that I'm only going to drink Coke on big occasions. And I think, when I go to the movie theater, which I go maybe 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. And I tell you this, every single time now I drink Coke, I enjoy it so much more. So when we have the abundance, we get used to abundance very quickly, and we stop appreciating it. And also material abundance, it gets even worse, because then we become more materialistic and we start looking for happiness in goods, in material things. And that happiness is very short-lived, and we go through what's called the hedonic adaptation. We get used to good things very quickly. So, as I got older, I started to appreciate. Actually, my wife had this conversation a couple of days ago, and I read that Asian wisdom, but though I think I also heard Michelangelo say the same thing, that I think it's a Buddhist thing, where the art, like when somebody, like in the Western culture, the art, you take a blank piece of paper and you create art on it. In Asian culture, and the Buddhist wisdom is that the art is already there. So when you look at the slab of stone, granite, or marble, the art is already there. You just have to unveil it. So I was talking to my wife about this, because I said, we have so much art at home that we can create. And what I was referring to, we have so many goods that we can just get rid of and give away, just to create space. So, Andy, I'm not even sure what the question I was answering, but I would argue that there is some volume of scarcity.
You just got it from Marco Polo, who that had to come from Asia, Michelangelo.
Yes, yeah, no, because my Michelangelo said the same thing, but I also read that it's a Buddhist concept as well, so who knows.
So when you came to the United States, did you see it, besides being this land of bottomless soda, did you see it as the land of opportunity and just so different from where you came?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to oversimplify it with soda. No, absolutely. I was lucky to be born in Russia and to be raised in America, because I appreciated this country so much more. When you come from poor, corrupt country to the United States, I appreciate this country so much more because I saw the contrast. I saw the opportunity I could have here, which I didn't have in Russia. So I knew that if I work harder, and I had to work harder than everybody else, because I didn't understand the culture, I didn't understand the language. But once I kind of acclimated, I would argue that it became my competitive advantage. And I would argue that, a lot of immigrants, and by the way, when I say this, I usually offend people who are born in this country and who are motivated as well. That's not what I'm trying to do. But as an immigrant, a lot of times people look at immigrants as they've been disadvantaged coming to this country. And I would argue, yes, maybe in the first year or two. But if they came from a poor country, I would argue that's actually an advantage long term.
Well, certainly it gives you motivation and grit and perseverance.
Yeah.
It wasn't so easy for your father and your stepmother, though, right? They had to make sacrifices and take jobs that were way below their education and their abilities.
So I wrote about this on Twitter today. So thank you for this question, because I think this is a very good question. So we left Russia in 1991. The Soviet Union was collapsing. And my father was afraid that the country will fall into a civil war, or it's going to go back to the dictatorial regime of the past. So he said that we came to United States for us. And that's what he did. For the next 10, 15, 20 years, it seemed like, that the bad things he thought would happen did not happen. Because Russia was going towards the democracy. There was a lot more opportunity, etc. And my father made an enormous sacrifice because he was a professor at university. He was extremely well known in Murmansk, very, very respected. And when he came to the United States, he was 58 years old, could not really learn language good enough to speak, like to teach. But he was lucky. He also had a hobby that he loved, painting. And if you look behind me, all these paintings are my father's, and behind me. So what was interesting, So he, like when we were living in Russia, we were so concerned for him because he was giving up a lot. And we were concerned that he would be miserable here. He was lucky that he was able to switch from one love to another love. My stepmom was not as fortunate because she was a doctor and she was 56 or something. And so for her to become a doctor here was impossible. So she ended up working at a hotel and doing housekeeping. My father felt very bad about that, actually. So he would come later in the day and would help my stepmom do housekeeping so she can take a break. That's my father. But anyway, this is where I was going with this. This is the point, today I had this aha moment. I realized that when the sacrifice my father did 30 years ago when we left Russia, even though today it's so obvious how much it has benefited my family, aside from me living in this great country, don't get me wrong. But I was thinking about it. I have a 21-year-old son who, if he lived in Russia today, he would have been conscripted to go to the Russian army and basically risk his life for what? And then also kill innocent, he'll be forced to kill innocent Ukrainians. And if I lived in Russia, I hopefully would not be as brainwashed like everybody else. But then I don't know if I had the courage to speak up. And if I did, I'd probably be arrested and be in jail. So I am so glad that I'm, for not just for me, but for my kids and my future and my grandkids and future generations that I'm growing up in this country, but not in Russia. So, and and I'm so thankful to my father and my stepmom for their sacrifice.
So it gives you such a great sense of gratitude, it sounds like.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. Hey, thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn more about life, classical music, philosophy, and investing, make sure to subscribe to my articles and visit investor.fm. Thank you.